Yes, I'm here with my friend LL, still somewhat anonymous, and we're gonna read the Grimm's brothers' tale, "The Golden Bird." I'm reading the Gutenberg version, and then we'll go ahead and talk about it. The Golden Bird. A certain king had a beautiful garden, and in the garden stood a tree which bore golden apples. These apples were always counted, and about the time when they began to grow ripe, it was found that every night one of them was gone. The king became very angry at this, and ordered the gardener to keep watch all night under the tree. The gardener set his eldest son to watch, but about 12 o'clock he fell asleep, and in the morning another of the apples was missing. Then the second son was ordered to watch, and at midnight he too fell asleep, and in the morning another apple was gone. Then the third son offered to keep watch, but the gardener at first would not let him, for fear some harm should come to him. However, at last he consented, and the young man laid himself under the tree to watch. As the clock struck 12, he heard a rustling noise in the air, and a bird came flying that was of pure gold. And as it was snapping at one of the apples with its beak, the gardener's son jumped up and shot an arrow at it. But the arrow did the bird no harm, only it dropped a golden feather from its tail and then flew away. The golden feather was brought to the king in the morning, and all the council was called together. Everyone agreed that it was worth more than all the wealth of the kingdom. But the king said, "One feather is of no use to me. I must have the whole bird." Then the gardener's eldest son set out and thought to find the golden bird very easily. And when he had gone but a little way, he came to a wood, and by the side of the wood he saw a fox sitting. So he took his bow and made ready to shoot at it. Then the fox said, "Do not shoot me, for I will give you good counsel. I know what your business is, and that you want to find the golden bird. You will reach a village in the evening, and when you get there, you will see two inns opposite to each other, one of which is very pleasant and beautiful to look at. Go not in there, but rest for the night in the other, though it may appear to you to be very poor and mean." But the son thought to himself, "What can such a beast as this know about the matter?" And he shot his arrow at the fox, but he missed it, and it set up its tail above its back and ran into the wood. Then he went his way, and in the evening came to the village where the two inns were. And in one of these were people singing and dancing and feasting, but the other looked very dirty and poor. "I should be very silly," said he, "if I went to that shabby house and left this charming place." So he went into the smart house and ate and drank at his ease, and forgot the bird and his country too. Time passed on, and as the eldest son did not come back, and no tidings were heard of him, the second son set out, and the same thing happened to him. He met the fox, who gave him the good advice. But when he came to the two inns, his eldest brother was standing at the window where the merrymaking was, and called to him to come in. And he could not withstand the temptation, but went in, and forgot the golden bird and his country in the same manner. Time passed on again, and the youngest son too wished to set out into the wide world to seek for the golden bird. But his father would not listen to it for a long while, for he was very fond of his son, and was afraid that some ill luck might happen to him also, and prevent his coming back. However, at last it was agreed he should go, for he would not rest at home. And as he came to the wood, he met the fox, and heard the same good counsel. But he was thankful to the fox, and did not attempt his life as his brothers had done. So the fox said, "Sit upon my tail, and you will travel faster." So he sat down, and the fox began to run, and away they went over stock and stone so quick that their hair whistled in the wind. When they came to the village, the son followed the fox's counsel, and without looking about him, went to the shabby inn and rested there all night at his ease. In the morning came the fox again and met him as he was beginning his journey, and said, Go forward till you come to a castle, before which lie a whole troop of soldiers, fast asleep and snoring. Take no notice of them, but go into the castle and pass on till you come to a room where the golden bird sits in a wooden cage. Close by it stands a beautiful golden cage, but do not try to take the bird out of the shabby cage and put it into the handsome one, otherwise you will repent it. Then the fox stretched out his tail again, and the young man sat himself down, and away they went over stock and stone till their hair whistled in the wind. Before the castle gate, all was as the fox had said. So the son went in and found the chamber where the golden bird hung in a wooden cage, and below stood the golden cage, and the three golden apples that had been lost were lying close by it. Then thought he to himself, it will be a very droll thing to bring away such a fine bird in this shabby cage. So he opened the door and took hold of it and put it into the golden cage. But the bird set up such a loud scream that all the soldiers awoke, and they took him prisoner and carried him before the king. The next morning the court sat to judge him, and when all was heard, it sentenced him to die, unless he should bring the king the golden horse which could run as swiftly as the wind. And if he did this, he was to have the golden bird given him for his own. So he set out once more on his journey, sighing and in great despair, when on a sudden his friend the fox met him and said, you see now what has happened on account of your not listening to my counsel. I will still, however, tell you how to find the golden horse, if you will do as I bid you. You must go straight on till you come to the castle where the horse stands in his stall. By his side will lie the groom fast asleep and snoring. Take away the horse quietly, but be sure to put the old leathern saddle upon him, and not the golden one that is close by. Then the son sat down on the fox's tail, and away they went over stock and stone till their hair whistled in the wind. All went right, and the groom lay snoring with his hand upon the golden saddle. But when the son looked at the horse, he thought it a great pity to put the leathern saddle upon him. I will give him the good one, said he. I am sure he deserves it. As he took up the golden saddle, the groom awoke and cried out so loud that all the guards ran in and took him prisoner. And in the morning he was again brought before the court to be judged, and was sentenced to die. But it was agreed that, if he could bring thither the beautiful princess, he should live, and have the bird and the horse given him for his own. Then he went his way very, very sorrowful. But the old fox came and said, why did you not listen to me? If you had, you would have carried away both the bird and the horse. Yet will I once more give you counsel. Go straight on, and in the evening you will arrive at a castle. At 12 o'clock at night, the princess goes to the bathing house. Go up to her and give her a kiss, and she will let you lead her away. But take care you do not suffer her to go and take leave of her father and mother. Then the fox stretched out his tail, and so away they went over stock and stone till their hair whistled again. As they came to the castle, all was as the fox had said, and at 12 o'clock the young man met the princess going to the bath, and gave her the kiss, and she agreed to run away with him, but begged with many tears that he would let her take leave of her father. At first he refused, but she wept still more and more, and fell at his feet, till at last he consented. But the moment she came to her father's house, the guards awoke, and he was taken prisoner again. Then he was brought before the king, and the king said, you shall never have my daughter unless in 8 days you dig away the hill that stops the view from my window. Now this hill was so big that the whole world could not take it away. And when he had worked for 7 days, and had done very little, the fox came and said, lie down and go to sleep. I will work for you. And in the morning he awoke, and the hill was gone. So he went merrily to the king, and told him that now it was removed, he must give him the princess. Then the king was obliged to keep his word, and away went the young man and the princess. And the fox came and said to him, We will have all three, the princess, the horse, and the bird. Ah, said the young man, that would be a great thing, but how can you contrive it? If you will only listen, said the fox, it can be done. When you come to the king and he asks for the beautiful princess, you must say, here she is. Then he will be very joyful, and you will mount the golden horse that they are to give to you, and put out your hand to take leave of them. But shake hands with the princess last. Then lift her quickly onto the horse behind you, clap your spurs to his side, and gallop away as fast as you can. All went right. Then the fox said, when you come to the castle where the bird is, I will stay with the princess at the door, and you will ride in and speak to the king. And when he sees that it is the right horse, he will bring out the bird. But you must sit still and say that you want to look at it to see whether it is the true golden bird. And when you get it into your hand, ride away. This too happened, as the fox said. They carried off the bird, the princess mounted again, and they rode on to a great wood. Then the fox came and said, pray kill me, cut off my head and my feet. But the young man refused to do it, so the fox said, I will at any rate give you good counsel. Beware of two things: ransom no one from the gallows, and sit down by the side of no river. Then away he went. Well, thought the young man, it is no hard matter to keep that advice. He rode on with the princess till at last he came to the village where he had left his two brothers. And there he heard a great noise and uproar. And when he asked what was the matter, the people said, two men are going to be hanged. As he came nearer, he saw that the two men were his brothers, who had turned robbers. So he said, cannot they in any way be saved? But the people said, no, unless he would bestow all his money upon the rascals and buy their liberty. Then he did not stay to think about the matter, but paid what was asked, and his brothers were given up, and went on with him towards their home. And as they came to the wood where the fox first met them, it was so cool and pleasant that the two birds said, let us sit down by the side of the river and rest a while to eat and drink. So he said yes, and forgot the fox's counsel, and sat down on the other side of the river. And while he suspected nothing, they came behind and threw him down the bank, and took the princess, the horse, and the bird, and went home to the king their master, and said, all this we have won by our labor. Then there was great rejoicing made, but the horse would not eat, the bird would not sing, and the princess wept. The youngest son fell to the bottom of the river's bed. Luckily, it was nearly dry, but his bones were almost broken, and the bank was so steep that he could find no way to get out. Then the old fox came once more and scolded him for not following his advice. Otherwise, no evil would have befallen him. Yet, said he, I cannot leave you here, so lay hold of my tail and hold fast. Then he pulled him out of the river and said to him, as he got upon the bank, your brothers have set watch to kill you, and if they find you in the kingdom. So he dressed himself as a poor man, and came secretly to the king's court, and was scarcely within the doors when the horse began to eat, and the bird to sing, and the princess left off weeping. Then he went to the king and told him all his brother's roguery, and they were punished and seized. And he had the princess given to him again. And after the king's death, he was heir to his kingdom. A long while after, he went to walk one day in the wood, and the old fox met him, and besought him with tears in his eyes to kill him, and cut off his head and feet. And at last he did so, and in a moment the fox was changed into a man, and turned out to be the brother of the princess, who had been lost a great many, many years. Well, I like that story. I didn't, I, there's obviously parallels with other stories, but not quite a story that I've read before. What did you think?
Mhm. Well, yeah, I was just definitely noticing a lot of the common patterns or themes compared to other stories.
three brothers. The first
Yeah.
two are foolish and or wicked. The third is the one with all the promise that ends up inheriting the kingdom.
Hmm. So yeah, yeah, there's that, and um, yeah. And then I remembered in one story there's also like brothers that stayed at a pleasure inn, or and just forgot all their responsibilities,
Oh, I don't even remember that
and
story.
searching for the objects they're supposed to.
Uh,
But then once the younger brother or the good brother found the things he was looking for, uh, they just took that opportunity to steal those items from the
yeah.
brother and claim it as theirs when they got back to their kingdom.
I remember another story we read where the first two brothers they got stuck in a narrow valley, and then the third brother, when he on his way back with triumphant, sort of with all the objects, he frees them. But I
Hmm.
didn't remember. But anyway, in this story, yeah, they go to these pleasure inns. They can't even make it past the first sort of obstacle, and the
Hmm.
third brother makes it all the way to the princess,
Hmm.
to the last level of the video game.
Yeah, and yeah, I just thought of it as kind of showcasing their passivity in life, where they don't really want to work or put effort into things. They just kind of want to wait and have a good time with pleasure until something falls on their laps. And that's when they'll turn into, I think it's that they became robbers and thieves. Then they'll just take it if there's if some not if an opportunity that they didn't earn appears.
Is that basically what you think most men are?
Hmm.
I'm joking with you. But yeah, I mean you point like so I had thought of the first two brothers as kind of hedonistic. They sort of see the two ends. They have the wise advice and they don't go with wise advice passed down to them, rationality words in their head. They instead go with what the senses tell them, even though they've been warned that this is what will happen.
Hmm.
Um, and yeah, they go inside and they seem to be in there a long time. There's a sort of timelessness to it. But it's interesting. You thought of this as like effort,
Hmm.
and it's more effort to go into the place with less pleasure. Those are sort of maybe two sides of the same coin,
Hmm.
but both of them sort of speak to this lack of character of the two elder brothers.
Hmm. Yeah, and yeah, they're definitely hedonistic, but yeah, at the pleasure end, they don't, they're catered to more. You don't have to put as much effort. And I think it kind of goes back to that relationship they had with their father, the king, because it seems the king just gives them favor. Uh,
Oh, why did you think that?
they're Because he allowed them to he trusted them to go travel and find whatever the golden bird.
Mm-hmm.
But when the third brother tried to do it, the king didn't want him to go. Uh,
Mm.
well, I don't know if the king necessarily mistreated the younger brother,
In this one, I
but
don't think so. It seems like he actually is scared for him to go, scared to lose
yeah,
him. So he loves him.
yeah, it's like they love him, but I don't know, maybe yeah, probably I'm going too far then because I was mixing it up with the stories where
Yeah, yeah. There's other
their
stories
brothers
where
are
they,
much more favored.
yeah,
Um, um,
but
yeah,
yeah. Mm.
but yeah, they just want to be somewhere where they don't have to work or they don't want to make effort in life.
Mm. Yeah, yeah, that might be the case. They certainly don't go on. I don't know. Yeah, either way, I think about that, thinking about their character, their pleasure seeking or go with the pleasure of the senses. And you sort of pointed out to me before that they end up becoming robbers because yeah, they can't be told no. And that is maybe how the even the tyrant, but anyway, the pleasure seeking erotic man who has no sort of character built up will keep expanding his desire for things, you know.
Mm.
And eventually you're going to step on someone's toes or you're going to try to steal from someone. You might also
Mm.
even say that part part of the reason they become robbers is they want to have to make effort. They want to work in some way for something.
Mhm.
They need some pushback from reality, which we all do, you know.
Mhm.
Hedonism eventually would give you a sense of unrealness to the world if there's just never any pushback from the world, you know. There's no
Mhm.
constraints on your desires or your behavior. It just your mind would rebel against that. You want some sort of pushback, just like a little
Mhm.
kid who's spoiled. Uh, Little kids want, you know, rules and some they want pushback and constraint by their parents.
Mhm.
So we started talking about this as like a difference in character, and you brought up the king originally. It's interesting that even though what does it say about the golden feather that they get? It's like enough to kind of enrich the whole kingdom, something like that. It's a very, very valuable feather, but the king can't stop there. He wants the whole bird, you know.
Mhm.
There's sort of this idea that you get this amazing gift from heaven, but you see that there is more there. So again, he doesn't have wisdom. He's sort of doesn't have limits that he places on himself, just like
Mhm.
his two elder sons. And he, you know, wants to go for more than he's sort of entitled to.
Mhm.
And he almost loses two and then all three sons to that.
Mhm.
And there's again the idea that the youngest son kind of corrects the error of the father
Mhm.
that we see in other stories too.
Yeah, so they they kind of absorb that kind of those ideas from their father, the king. But then when there's an actual wise figure trying to guide them, they try to, like the fox, they try to kill it. Um, so
The father
yeah.
tells them something they want to hear. Go
Hmm.
out and presumably without too much effort, go and get this wonderfully golden bird.
Hmm.
But the fox tells them something about there being constraints on their behavior. You're going to have to make a difficult decision later on. And I'm
Hmm.
going to even tell you exactly what that decision is. And, you know, it's a pretty low bar. Like, this is what's going to happen. Don't choose B. You're going to want to choose B. Choose A. You're not going to want to choose A. But believe me, that's the best option. I'm a talking fox, you know. But yeah, they one and then the other can't do it.
Hmm.
And by the way, I thought it was kind of a haunting image of the second brother going to that that first town with the two inns and seeing the pleasure inn and seeing the his elder brother in there who had been in there a long time, this kind of hedonistic bordello and then joining him. To me, that's kind of a haunting image of sort of, yeah, what is it? I mean, there's this mixture of like love or wanting to join your brother or something. This is this image of like decadence and temptation or something. I don't know. For
Hmm.
some reason, it's kind of haunting to me. I mean, because they're in kind of a hell, you know, there's this timelessness to the inn, as the story makes clear that it seems like there's a long time that passes from the first brother going into the pleasure inn to the second brother and then to the third brother. It's almost, I take it to be there's some kind of eternity there. It's almost like they're
Hmm.
in a hell.
Yeah, and I thought maybe think of it, maybe it's like a showing like the transformation, I guess, of gradual like over the years and stuff, and to them maybe like becoming more like their father, the king, who wants to get this entire golden bird to get
Greedy and
riches.
excessive.
Yeah.
Although they've also degenerated, right, in that they've even forgotten what they're seeking.
Mhm.
You know, at least the king had some sort of idea of what he was seeking. Like he had lost something, the golden apples at the beginning of the story, and he's seeking the reason for this. And then he finds a bird, and then he sends his sons out. But the first two sons, they stop at the pleasure inn, and they're in the land of the lotus eaters. They forget, you know, what why they even came there and what they're even supposed to do. So then the third brother, so he goes and he actually listens to the fox. There's this idea that he's not fooled by appearances. Like another story we have where brothers meet this dwarf man on the road, and they, you know, the first two dismiss him, the third listens, you know. So it's this, at least at the heart, at the base of it, it's who listens and who doesn't. You know, there's simple words, but they're, you know, simple words can lead to a lot of help in life. But most people maybe don't listen. They instead, you know, just see with their eyes rather than, you know, their soul or wisdom, whatever. So he go the youngest brother goes to the two inns and he survives. He passes that test, right? Like he chooses
Mhm.
the shabby inn, and from your idea that he sort of has to make effort, he has to deal with hardship. It's kind of this, you know, this toughening process or something through difficulty. But then after that, he fails all the tests after that, right? And he has to be saved by the
Yeah.
fox.
Yeah. Yeah. So like even though he did well at the end, like he's still kind of being fooled by appearances and always chooses a more beautiful or um I don't know, compelling option for
Yeah.
like the saddle or the bird cage for the golden bird and horse. So he's still like has learning to do.
Yeah. And there's probably, you can draw maybe symbolism from the things. So the first inn is like a just a place to sleep. It's a place to rest. It's like a home. And he's not fooled by that. You could say maybe like he's a boy that's lived at home all his life, so he knows something about home. So something that is familiar to him, he is a of that category. He is able to kind of, with the right guidance, able to kind of not be fooled too much and is able to kind of make decent decisions. But then with the other kinds of things that he encounters, like the horse, which is maybe going out into the world or transportation, or the bird, which is maybe magic, tricks, the soul, I don't know, something like that. And then the princess later on, which is sort of like the fulfillment of adult life and, you know, settling down again, coming back home, the original thing. All those last three, he's kind of, he doesn't know, he doesn't understand, and he still needs more guidance. And he's not
Mhm.
able to make the leap just given the right advice. He has to be saved, kind of.
Mhm. Yeah, and again, even though he makes mistakes, he still like accepts the fox's help when it appears, eventually after the mistake. So that's kind of different from the brothers that just want to kill the fox whenever it, like you said, tells them something they don't want to hear.
Yeah. So he doesn't listen to the fox on the first time with the after the ends, but he kind of listens to it after that.
Yeah, which is, you know, not ideal, but that's kind of how young people learn in real life. So
Yeah.
kind of accurate.
So he does fall on his face a few times, but he is willing to kind of listen after that and learn.
Mhm.
Fool me once, shame on me, something. You had also noticed that they flew like the wind when he goes with the fox, and I had said, I think that in stories that sometimes means that you're not stuck like in many stories and in this story too. The idea is that in certain places in life you can just get stuck. And John
Mm,
Vervaeke has this idea that that's like existential inertia. So you have this idea in life you want to be moving forward, developing your potential or developing in some way in life, career, relationship, exercise, health, or something.
mm,
But you just can't change somehow. So
mm,
that's existential inertia. And in this story too, the brothers, the first two brothers get stuck in terms of pleasure or lack of effort, lack of the pain of effort.
mm,
And the third brother doesn't get stuck there, but later he gets stuck at and based on appearances too, still. So, but yeah, there's this idea that he can't move forward in life, something,
mm.
and without help. And but yeah, like you said, when he does get extra help, he does kind of like a somewhat wiser sort of young person. He does go forward.
Yeah. Yeah, and I also kind of thought of the wind as him kind of getting closer to being freed from his burdens because of the mistakes he had made. But and he's kind of burdened with having to obtain the horse and the bird and the bride. But with every step he makes forward with the fox, he's kind of getting closer to kind of freeing himself from those problems
Hmm.
eventually.
Hmm.
So like I just thought of the wind as kind of a symbolic of that.
Of
Just kind of
freeing
having,
himself from these problems. But I thought
yeah,
the horse and the bird and the princess, those burdens? I mean, those are
our
literally things.
challenges, but like things
Okay.
he had to obtain or else he would be like put to death. Yeah. Uh,
Right. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, each mistake he makes, he has to go deeper into the
yeah.
story in order to eventually extricate himself.
Mm,
Although, so we've been talking about this in terms of wisdom of decisions and everything, but there's also this overall arc of fate, as shown by the fact that the whole time the fox wanted to be freed. So the fox was the prince at the sort of the end of the world where the princess lived in the castle with the king who had the window that was blocked by a hill that's as might as well be the size of the world. And the third brother needed to make all these mistakes and keep going forward in the journey until he was able to save her and then come back to the fox and eventually kill the fox so that the fox can be brought back to life as what he originally was, which was that princess's brother prince. So there's this overall idea of fate anyway, that maybe this whole thing was supposed to happen that way or something.
mm,
But
mm,
with the part at the end where after with the fox's help sort of overcoming all these challenges, saving the princess and then saving the princess and himself again from the court and say the bird and the horse, he still wants to, I don't want to say do right by his brothers, more like save them from themselves, which of course they repay him in the opposite way. But yeah, he still wants to, even though he knows, do not tarry with anybody who's about to be hanged. The fox tells him that. And then he comes back to the earlier point in his own journey at the town of the two inns, and his brothers are about to be hanged because of their presumed excesses that led them into villainy. They went
Mm.
from being lazy and unproven to villains, thieves. And but then he has to give up all his money. There's this again, this theme of sacrifice. He has to give up all his money, and even he risks his life because of their nature to save his brothers. And then later they come to a river, which is a like liminal space or like a border kind of area that's in a way like their way, the stopover before they come back to the normal world, is how I think of it. But yeah, there's much danger in thresholds. And yeah, and they do end up kind of, I don't, they come up behind him and bunk him over the head or push him in the into the river, right? And he kind of goes down into the depths. And then again, yeah, he's saved by the fox. But yeah, it's this idea that he risks everything. He risks a lot in this story, right? And he loses a lot. Kind of like the fox, I guess. The fox has to lose his life as a fox, be killed before he gains
Mm.
it. So there's sort of maybe a Christian kind of theme here of the god or the hero that loses his life in order to gain it. There's the sort of paradoxes of Christianity. And the people who just try to gain the king or the brothers end up losing, right? The brothers end
Mm.
up, what happens to them? They're exiled or they fall into
Uh,
ignominy in some way. And the king
well, I
eventually dies and passes the kingdom on to the youngest son that he was afraid to lose.
yeah, it says the brothers were put to death.
Put to death, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, talk about the theme of fate again. They all sort of have this fate that they tried to avoid, but they end up kind of having, including the third brother, who kind of has a lot of pratfalls, but he's able to more than muddle through. He makes a lot of effort and he has faith, so to speak, and he travels fast as the wind on the fox's tail. And but he is continually saved by the fox too. But you could say that's something like
Mm.
faith, just going along with this sort of Christian theme of you have faith, you have a lot of virtue, courage, some wisdom, uh, and love, and then everything is given to you. Because like at the end of his journey, which is also the midpoint, where he's at the castle, at the sort of the princess's father's castle, and there's to me there's something sinister about that place. This she does love her parents and love her father, and she does really weep to say goodbye to them. She's really attached to it, but she's not supposed to do that. She's not supposed to look back. Sort of like in the Bible with Lot and his wife. They're as either Sodom or Gomorrah, both are being destroyed. They're not supposed to look back or something, even though it's their home, or I don't know. It's maybe something debauched about that place too.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's something sinister about that place. Something about the window, which is sort of the way that you see. That's sort of deeper understanding or enlightenment. It's the way that light comes in to the castle. It's blocked by this giant hill. Or please correct me if I'm wrong on that detail. But yeah, I can't help thinking there's something dark about this castle at the end.
Let's see. Mm.
But anyway, about that castle, which is the midpoint and could be the end of his journey, he the the boy is not able to make any progress in clearing away this hill. He's given a Sisyphean task, but through his sort of, I think of it as sort of faith in his connection to the fox just tells him simply go to sleep and everything will be taken care of in the morning. And that's sort of kind of a theme of this is, at the beginning of his journey, he had as long as he'd kind of done the right thing, like going to the shabby inn, goes to sleep, things are kind of right in the morning. There's something about this maybe Christian modern worldview as opposed to the ancient maybe worldview, more tragic worldview. There's more optimism or faith in this sort of story. Like kind of do the right thing and rest and everything will be okay.
I don't know, maybe there's something about the king, maybe his worldview is restricted in some way, but I don't know.
Yeah,
Um,
certainly, certainly.
yeah,
Yeah, and in
he's
terms of the size of the hill, now this hill was so big that the whole world could not take it away. And when he had worked for 7 days and had done very little, the fox said, "Lie down and go to sleep. I will work for you." So yeah, there's this idea, some idea of like works versus faith. Like, he's given a Sisyphean task and he can't, there's no way he can complete it with his sort of tedious effort. He works for 7 days and nights, which is maybe symbolic of like in the Bible, God created the world in only 6 days, right? So in his working 7 days and nights, it's almost like he can work very hard for like a complete cycle of time and it almost makes no difference. And
mm,
then he can go to sleep and trust in the word of this sort of magical figure, and everything works out after that. Everything
mm,
is gone.
mhm,
It's this idea that there is a truth to the world of faith, virtue, wisdom, and things that transcends the physical world of sort of narrow logic and uh, interested. I mean, acting in one's interests, one's purported interest, action.
mhm. Yeah, I wonder if removing a hill was kind of a preparation for the fox to come back as a man again.
How
Uh,
so?
because he kind of literally got an obstacle out of the way. So coming back, maybe there's not a hill in the way, and maybe the king will be able to see him easier
Oh,
or
right.
something.
Yeah. So
Um,
you're saying there, yeah, the king's vision was kind of clouded maybe by this hill, and the
mhm.
fox, through his sort of doing the favor or helping the prince, is helping himself too by helping his father.
Yeah,
And that
yeah,
maybe lifts whatever kind of curse this family was sort of under, like through the mad king.
yeah. And what you mentioned about the illogical, well, he is kind of coming back from an illogical situation. It's like he's like a fox that got killed and then came back alive as a man. Uh,
Yeah. Why you say that's illogical? It's sort of like this ridiculous kind of situation.
yeah,
He's made to be a fool or something. He was,
not a fool, but it's just a unusual situation.
yeah.
Yeah,
There's some kind of curse going on there, right?
yeah.
Something they're at the end of the world. They have this huge hill blocking the window.
Mm.
Hmm. One thing about the end of the story, it's kind of, is there an irony or something in that they do, through all these efforts and trials, although the two brothers have to lose their life, they do end up getting the bird and also a golden horse and a princess, right? Which maybe means like the continuance of the kingdom, the original kingdom, and the sort of through children and happiness and things like that. There's a renewal, right? They brought back gifts from the other world across the river, and now there's a renewal, right? And maybe even a renewal in terms of putting to death the two brothers that maybe were sort of like parasitic or would challenge the third brother for the kingdom or something like that. But they did. I mean, in that there was no challenge of the original king's greed or anything, right? Because they do give him the golden bird, right? But
Mm.
the story doesn't really remark on that, right?
Mm,
Yeah, I don't think the king's greed after that is mentioned. I mean, maybe this is just the thing that just started it all. And yeah, the prince again, um, finally he's saved from the his death in the river by the fox, and he comes back, and once he comes back, everything is right in the kingdom, right? The princess stops weeping, the bird starts singing, and the horse began to eat. And we could talk about maybe what the bird and the horse and things mean specifically. But then the third brother went to the king and told him all his brother's roguery, and they were seized and punished, and he had the princess given to him again. And after the king's death, he was heir to the kingdom. But yeah, that's not the end of the story, right? There's the making things right with the fox, which is in a way you could almost retell this whole story from the fox's perspective.
mm,
A long while after he went to walk one day, a long while after he went to walk one day in the wood, and the old fox met him. Now he's old, and besought him with tears in his eyes to kill him and cut off his head and feet. And at last he did so, and in a moment the fox was changed into a man, and turned out to be the brother of the princess, who had been lost a great many years. Again, there's this theme of the princes being going away and being lost, maybe forever or maybe for a very long time. There's something about that. And in a way, the fox, the prince fox, is sort of the one that suffered the most in this story. You know, he's been hounded. He's had to go through difficult things himself. He's had to clear away a whole hill, a huge hill that the whole world cannot clear away. He's had to do an impossible task. He's had to suffer for many years after even the original prince that he helped, but who refused to sort of help him in the ultimate way. Uh, that prince is, goes on to happiness for many years, and
mm,
happiness and completeness in life for many years, while this old fox is still sort of wandering like Uranus across the earth as like a wraith or something like that. Or I don't know. Does he have to help many other people? But anyway, he does suffer under whatever curse has been bestowed on him until he finally meets the prince again in some wooded place, and finally the prince maybe has the what's the difference in the prince? The prince is complete now, so he knows what to do, even when it seems very counterintuitive, very difficult. Cut off. What does he have to do? Cut off the head?
out of the head and feet.
Yeah. He has to kill him and cut off his head and feet. Yeah. Yeah. What's with that? The prince finally can do what needs to be done. He's finally a man, a complete man, you know. He can finally make the ultimate kind of sacrifice or something. I mean, he doesn't sacrifice himself, but he makes uh he makes a pretty big sacrifice
Mm,
his mentor, by killing his mentor so that he can. But anyway, yeah, there's this still this maybe this Christian-esque theme of yeah, these sacrifices, even blood sacrifices, in order for renewal, for transformation, you know. But any thoughts about what the idea of fate running throughout this story, or the idea of lost princes, or the sort of the specific symbolism of maybe the bird or the inn or the horse?
mm,
There's obviously the theme running throughout of like, don't choose things based on the dazzlingness, the salience to your eyes. Choose things based on your deeper wisdom, your heart, something like that. Those things are more useful for you on your journey, you know?
Mm, well, I just thought of, yeah, generally just a lot of these stories just kind of seem to be about the process of, or the, or who's like fated to be a leader, or who has the qualities to be like a good ruler.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, it's kind of obvious with the younger prince just kind of developing and kind of showing that he has the the wisdom to to be able to do that at the end of the story,
Mm,
compared to his other brothers.
yeah. And I don't
And
think
the
that has to do with like older or younger, but
yeah,
more like the structure of the story provides us with the two elder brothers messing up to kind of show us what other kinds of fates uh, can await us, or the idea that most people are likely to fail through their character failings, something like that.
Mhm. Yeah, and the fox obviously was kind of like a mentor throughout the way. And he himself is a prince, so it was greater experience probably
Mm,
to be able to kind of show him the way.
mm. Yeah, yeah. But yeah, anybody listening, if you can comment maybe, and maybe we'll look this up later too, of the specific things of the horse, something about nobility, right? Transformation, but at the end of the story, the horse is eating. So it's something about sustenance, you need transportation, or horses can be pack animals also. They can help you kind of move your possessions and things and farm even. What about the bird though? The bird is singing when he gets back. Finally, it's maybe I feel like the bird symbolizes the soul in some way. It's this idea of the or a part of the soul, the spirit. It can soar. It can be trapped. It's it the remember the name of the story is the golden bird, so that it's maybe the most important thing. Even one feather is enough, is valuable enough for the whole kingdom. I think the bird is, yeah, that the most important thing there. This Yeah, it's something about the bird sings, it's something about expressiveness, it's something about spirit, something about communication of some kind of maybe divine message or something, you know. Come on, you're a bird lover. What do you think about this golden bird?
Mm-hmm.
Even one and it's the thing that starts them off on this whole journey because it's been eating the golden apples, which we haven't even remarked on. But it takes something from the king, and that sets off this whole thing that changes everything. That leads to the revelation and the development of all three of the king's sons. There's this idea that the king, maybe it's this idea that the king is sort of complacent in the beginning of the story. Sort of like he's sitting pretty. He has his orchard with the golden apples. He has his three sons by his side, but no one's really been tested. And eventually they have to really go out in the world and become lost before they can come back to renew the kingdom with like a political marriage and love and kind of religious renewal, bringing, they get rid of like two sort of less useless kind of princes, and they bring back this wise fox kind of prince along with his sister, who becomes the queen. But anyway, you could say there's this idea that the original king is forced to give up three golden apples, and that starts his whole family off on this long kind of journey where eventually they're tested and some of them fail onto death. And they become villains, utter uh, you know, ignominious characters that try to betray their own brother. But it also brings renewal to the kingdom, many valuable things.
Mm. I think the bird might represent new beginnings because it even from the beginning it doesn't sing. Like it lets out a cry when it's getting uh I don't know, taken away, or I don't know what happened, but exactly, but it just says lets out a cry, which is the only sound it makes until the end when it starts singing. And when birds sing, it's kind of like a
Beginning of the
new
day.
day, new beginning.
Yeah.
Um, like all things are going okay, or as they should be. So
Yeah.
and
Yeah, that's right.
and uh, it's just kind of showing how everything is kind of resolved at the end, and there's happiness and a new chapter
Yeah.
for the
Yeah.
prince in the kingdom.
Yeah, that sounds right to me. There may have been something rotten in the state of Denmark, so to speak, at the very beginning of the story, and the bird kind of is some kind of figure that shows that, and it takes the apples and it starts this whole long, very dangerous and difficult kind
Mhm.
of series of events that eventually lead back to a new morning. And
Mhm.
yeah, you can map this whole story onto like the beginning of a day all the way through to the dark, dark night and the darkest part of night, and eventually back to the new day and the bird sings
Mhm.
again. Yeah, I think
Yeah,
that's right.
yeah, because in my version it says the bird would not sing at one point. So,
It's like it,
and it and another part, it's still like it says it's shut in a cage when it's at the other castle. So it's not a happy bird. Um,
right, yeah. And
yeah. Until the until he until the end when he things are as they should be.
right, and then it yeah, expresses that again. So like the new dawn has arrived.
Mhm.
Okay. Well, that seems like a good one to end it on, and then maybe we'll read the story you've been really craving, the golden ass or whatnot, or maybe even a non-golden animal next time. Okay, well, it was fun. Okay, take care.